Dividers, welcome to another episode. Very special guest in the building, Mr. Paul Glantz. He is the co-founder and chairman of Emagine Entertainment Theaters. Paul Glantz graduated from Wayne State University in 1980, got his master's in taxation from Walsh University, and he has been quoted in numerous publications, including Film Journal International, the New York Times, the International Herald Tribune, and CNN Showbiz Tonight on the future of moviegoing. Paul, thanks so much for being with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Paul, I feel like I've known you for about 15 years now. 'Cause I'm at the movies every other weekend. I'm always seeing you on the screen. It's like we're friends.
So,
Gotta have the popcorn.
So let me ask you, guys familiar with the grocery store chain down in South called Piggly Wiggly?
I've never heard of that before.
Never heard of
Can't
it?
say that I am.
So at Piggly Wiggly, they have this image of a pig that's their mascot, essentially. And what they say at Piggly Wiggly is when you see this face, you know you found the right place. So I am the Piggly Wiggly of Emagine.
That's true.
It's true. It really is.
Also, we need to silence our cell phones. And silence is golden. I always.
It's gonna be real
great
funny if
every
your
time
phone
you
goes
say
off.
it.
You guys, I love you. All right. Love you already. It's real clear I love you.
So, Paul, I mean, you obviously built this empire of a theater, right? You got locations everywhere. Where did it all really begin for you?
Well, it started a long time ago, like almost 30 years ago right now. I had a partner, another CPA, and we were convinced at a pretty early age that we knew everything there was to know about business. There was just one minor problem. We didn't have two nickels to rub together. So we went looking for business opportunities. We looked at family restaurants, bars, dry cleaners, you name it. And we finally came upon this ad in the Detroit News, classifieds, for a one-screen theater out in Clarkston called the Clarkston Cinema. And it was a great opportunity. The folks that were selling the business wanted to use the proceeds to expand another theater that they owned. And we were able to buy it at a really good price. And it was largely because they didn't like their landlord. And again, they needed the funding to move forward with their other theater. Well, we didn't like the landlord after a while either, and in light of the fact he spent some time in a Michigan penitentiary, I'm not sure that wasn't in fact warranted. But that's how it all started. We had this one-screen cinema, and when you've got a one-screen cinema, I actually knew how to thread the projector. I could pop popcorn. I could clean after the show, which is why we serve liquor at our theaters today, because I found out that folks sometimes like to bring adult beverages into a movie theater. And so as a lowly retailer, it's now my obligation to provide them with that product if they're so inclined. Anyway, we became students of the industry. We'd go to industry conventions, learned everything we could about the business. And then in the mid-'90s, we both had, of course, day jobs. The one-screen cinema couldn't support us or our families in its entirety. But we decided, well, let's make this a real thing. And we acquired some angel capital. We borrowed money from a bank. We got an SBA loan. And we built a 6-screen cinema up in Birch Run, Michigan, which was then known as Cinema Hollywood. And it started off very slowly, but it gained traction eventually. And we expanded it in 2010. Not 2010, 1999. We opened that in 96. We expanded in 99. And then of recent, we've actually added more screens up there as well. So now we started with 6, now we're up to 12 screens in Birch Run, and it's known as Emagine Birch Run.
Wow.
Wow.
There's a lot I want to get into, but before you started on the movie path, you were actually an accountant, correct?
Yeah, I'm an accountant by training. I'm a CPA. I have a master's in taxation from Walsh College. And it was great background for business. You've got to understand the numbers, right?
Right.
And so having that background in accounting proved to be very valuable to me. And what's also fascinating is that, I didn't come from a moneyed background. So I didn't have a lot of capital, and it's a very capital-intensive business. But practicing public accounting enabled me to also befriend people who were gracious enough to commit capital to our business. And some of my former clients are also now some of the biggest owners of Emagine. But the best story of capital, in my opinion, goes to the fact that the gentleman that I'd worked for in public accounting, his name is Jim. Jim was sort of my boss and a mentor to me. Jim was, along with his friend Dale, the original angel capital for the theater in Birch Run. Without their $450,000 going back to 1996, we would have nothing today. And it was fascinating because I had dinner with Jim last week, and he told me that at least 10 people told him, "You've got to be an idiot to put money in this deal."
Not
then?
anymore.
Not anymore. Now he's not looking like an idiot.
That's
Wow.
usually how it starts, though. I feel like there's a lot of negativity around it, and then those are the ones that usually take off.
You know, there's risk. There was plenty of risk associated with it, but we were diligent. We worked hard at it. I think over time we learned how to better serve our guests, and that's really what we're about. We're trying to provide our guests with the best experience possible, and so far so good.
So why movie theaters? Because not many accountants will transition into the movie theater world. Why that space?
Well, candidly, it's very pragmatic from this perspective. I shared with you that we looked at a lot of different businesses. The folks from whom we bought the theater had a single income statement for both theaters, meaning they didn't have sort of the results from the Fenton Cinema broken out from the Clarkson Cinema. And so I'm not sure they knew quite how profitable the business was that they were selling. But a couple of accountants could basically do forensic accounting and figure out that we were buying the business at 2 times pre-tax cash flow. Now, it was really critically important that we buy it right, and here's why. The source of that capital, 50 grand we borrowed on our credit cards, and 75 grand we borrowed on the bank.
Oh my God.
We had high cost capital, right? The most expensive capital you could imagine. But we needed it to be highly profitable because we needed that kind of return on assets to actually amortize the debt.
So you guys went into this. You had no, well, I guess you had your accounting background, and that's where you got approved from the bank because you actually had stuff to put up for the $75K. But how do you get an investor to put up $450,000 with no previous movie background or no business background in that type of field?
Well, we actually did. By the time we built Cinema Hollywood in Birch Run, it was in 96, it opened in 97. We actually had the experience of running the Clarkson before that. But it's true, we started out with zero equity. We had 100% debt, credit card debt and bank debt. And it's true, though, the bank looked at a couple CPAs and figured, these guys, even if the business doesn't work, they can work off 75 grand between them. But, it'd be very difficult to replicate that today. I don't know how you would get into the business today with as little capital as we had at the time.
So was it more of like, are you you're a movie buff, obviously, or is it
Yeah.
more of your co-founder? I think something said where he's a huge movie buff.
Well, I'm a big movie fan too. My mom was a big moviegoer. My dad wasn't really much of a moviegoer, but my mom was a moviegoer, and she would take me often. And, I've got very fond memories of my childhood going to the Maikai Theater in Livonia, the Terrace, the Quo Vadis. These are, theaters that are not necessarily around anymore, but they were awesome at the time. And it's really the genesis for what we're doing now with these enormous screens, because I remember as a kid being awed of these giant screens and larger than life-size figures on the screen and wonderful sound systems and so forth. So that's kind of what we're trying to do these days, is bring back that out-of-home experience, make it really special for our guests.
Yeah, I think it was genius when you guys came up with the reserve seating, because anytime you go to the movie, you don't know where you're gonna sit. Like back in the early 2000s, then Emagine came up with you get to reserve your seat, so you know exactly where you're gonna sit. Is that something that you came up with, or just something that you thought of with you and your partner?
Well, I'll tell you, it's all about the experience, and I think that some of the things that we've done over time have enhanced the quality of the experience. Now, I don't expect to be lauded for any of these things because, honestly, I think that had we not made these innovations, we would have been out of business a long time ago. But I think the beauty of assigned seating is that you can buy your tickets on your smartphone, on your desktop. You know where you're sitting. The benefit is you can come late, you can come early, come at your leisure, and ultimately this is 2 hours of escapism, right? 2 to 3 hours
Correct,
of escapism.
yes.
Yes.
So you want to show up in a highly relaxed fashion, and so I think that the culmination or the combination of both reserved seating, putting your feet up, in reclining chairs and those type of things, it's all designed really to make it a more favorable out-of-home experience. Because again, if you look at our competition these days, there's a lot of competition.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and a lot of it's indirect, right? Streaming and so forth.
Correct.
So we have to offer our guests something compelling, or they'll just stay home and watch something.
You even offer the cuddle chair now.
Yes. Now I'm going to tell you what. I'm taking responsibility for that one. That was my idea. And I'll tell you a little secret about that. I don't care if I put the first row of seats back 300 yards. No one would want to sit in the front row.
Correct.
No.
Okay? So I've got this problem. I've got this real estate that's inherently unsaleable. Basically, you're paying for chairs that no one will buy, right? And so I had to figure out a means of making it attractive. And so probably little known about the cuddle chairs is, let's say it's $10 at night and $6 for a matinee. You can buy in blocks of 2 for that cuddle chair. You can buy those seats at night for $12.
Wow.
So you've got basically the matinee pricing to sit in the front row, and you can put your feet up on the ottoman. The whole concept is that it's a little better value, and interestingly enough, we've got guests who really like that front row now, so I'm patting myself on the back for that one.
It's kind of genius. I mean, you're giving them at a discounted rate, but at least they're being sold, because otherwise they were going unsold in every show.
Absolutely, and so it's like I've turned it into at least partially saleable real estate.
Yeah. And they get to cuddle, so the wives are happy.
Yes, they are.
Now, what about the potential downsides of the cuddle seat? Are you worried about that?
We put them in the front row, not in the back row on purpose.
That makes sense.
Extra lights.
Yeah,
Because I want to say something. I actually wanted to get one because whatever, but it was the front, and I'm like, no,
Not at
that's-
Imagine.
I don't want to be. I don't want to. I'm just kidding.
there are people observing you in those seats. That's why we didn't put them in the back row.
Mm-hmm.
So $50,000 in credit card debt and a $75,000 bank loan.
Yep.
Just thinking of the numbers, it gives me anxiety because I'm the type of guy that hates debt. Was there ever a point where you maybe felt like, did I make a mistake? Did I dig myself a hole that I can't get out of? Or were you confident from the start?
Multiple times. I thought I was in and couldn't even see up anymore. I was so far down. And honestly, it started in Birch Run. The Red Wings had not won a Stanley Cup in 42 years until they won on a Saturday night in early June of 1997. Now, that happened to be the second weekend we were open. And I can tell you that there wasn't a soul in that movie theater because everybody was fixated on the Red Wings, right?
Right.
The Wings hadn't won in 42 years. They're all watching hockey. They're at the bar. They're at home. I literally cried going home that night. And it turned out to be one of the best things that ever occurred in our business career because I decided that what wasn't going to let it kill me. Next year, we're going to show the Stanley Cup playoffs. And we rented a digital projector, and we showed the Stanley Cup finals from start to finish, filled up an auditorium. We had a series of one-day liquor licenses that allowed us to sell beer while people were watching hockey. And it worked. And the reason I bring it up is because it put us at the very cutting edge of digital cinema. And that's critical because we were actually the first theater chain in the world to convert to all digital. And we did that in late 2005, early 2006. And so that experience in what we call alternative content or digital presentations actually started back in 1997 when I thought we were going to sink because we were, at that point, $3.5 million in debt.
Oh my
Jeez.
God.
No second way out, and nobody in the theater.
Oh my God. I don't even know what I would do with myself. Do you guys still do the sporting events though for like the NBA finals? Would you guys have like theaters that are designated?
We do. We show the Final Four. We do lots of stuff with sports and alternative content. We do pay-per-view wrestling occasionally. We do UFC sometimes. We've done boxing matches. Honestly, I think that's the future of the industry. It's not just filmed entertainment. It's whatever folks want to see in a really great environment.
Now, is it upon request? Because I've never seen it being marketed. I've never seen.
We probably could do a better job of marketing. It's on our website. It actually is listed along with the films.
That'd be
Yeah.
insane.
Those will be just available dates, or will we have to reserve?
Yeah, you have to reserve seats for those just as well. Now, what saved us is that there was a little movie that came along in December of 1997. And I say that 1,600 people gave up their lives so we could survive financially. Do you remember what that was?
No.
1,600 people gave up their life. Titanic?
Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say
Perfect. You got it.
I remember
I'm a movie buff too, cuz.
Yeah, you got it. So Titanic came along, and people who hadn't been to a movie in 50 years decided that they wanted to come out and see what was going on. I met this elderly gentleman in Birch Run. He said, I got to see what this is all about. He literally told me he hadn't been to a movie in 50 years. So it brought people out, and that was really the key, because once people found us and they found it was a great experience, then lo and behold, they started coming. They made it part of their routine, and that's what saved us. Then, believe me, we've had other near-death experiences. Like when we opened Emagine Novi back in 2002, I always say that what you don't know, when you don't know what you don't know, it's the worst thing in business.
Exactly.
And what I didn't know was I'd have a film buying problem in Novi. My competitor across the street had a family history in the industry. And when we built this new theater with 18 screens and state-of-the-art, beautiful, the guy across the street, whose dad had been in the business since the 1930s, decided that he was going to get in the way. And so he went to his buddies in Hollywood and said, don't you dare sell them all the feature films. And so for 2+ years, we had 18 screens and about half the feature releases.
Oh god.
How does that work exactly in
Yeah.
terms of capturing the feature film? I thought everybody would get access to those.
Oh, no. I learned the hard way because I didn't know
What you didn't know.
that my buddy across the street, who was my competitor, could actually squeeze me out of films. And I've got emails going back to that time period where folks wrote to me and said, how stupid can you be not to be playing this film? Well, I wanted to slit my wrist. Of course I wanted to play the film.
Yeah.
But Hollywood wouldn't license it to us because they called the Novi area zone, and they only wanted to sell their film in one theater in a zone. Anyway, we eventually overcame that, and it was a blessing because, we'd be kaput today if that standard were still applied to us. So these days, of course, we're privileged to be able to exhibit pretty much every wide release film.
So is that rule still the case today?
There are still vestiges of it, and so it's not completely resolved. In fact, in Birmingham of recent, our friend down the street was playing a film, and they said you can't play it, and so I still put up with it to some degree. But for the most part, we have a very good relationship with the studios, and we do get to play virtually every major release these days.
So that's why there's certain theaters that don't play certain movies, is because they don't get the licensing from the studios.
Yeah, or sometimes, like we've only got 7 screens in Birmingham. You have to make some tough decisions if you only have 7
Which ones you want to
screens.
show?
Exactly. But our handicap was we had 18 screens. I say we built a superstore and we stocked it like a convenience store. That was a real problem for 2.5
Yeah.
years. And it's kind of a neat story. I don't know how much time we've got, but it was a neat story how we overcame it. Essentially, I had a friend from Birch Run. His name is Lou Dodak, and Lou is the former Speaker of the House of Representatives. Lou was working as a lobbyist at the time I got to know him. And he said, Paul, why don't we introduce a bill that would make what the studios are doing to you a crime under a theory of antitrust?
Mhm.
Wow.
It's good to have friends in high places, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we drafted the law. I actually had a sponsor in both the House and the Senate. We never introduced it. And the reason we didn't introduce it because legislation can get relegated to a subcommittee. And the Motion Picture Association of America, which was it is the lobbying organization for the studios, they were none too pleased with me. In fact, there was a time when I was the most hated exhibitor in the United States because I wanted to take their 1930s business practices and make it a crime.
Right.
Wow.
Anyway, so I was the bad cop back in Michigan. I hired a new film buyer out in California. He was our good cop. Eventually, we proved to the studios that it was in their best interest to license us all the films because whenever they did so, they made more money. And so we eventually overcame it. But it was a gruesome time in our business history because thankfully by that time, I'd made a little bit of money in the insurance business. I was shoveling in money like it was coal into a fire to keep the thing afloat.
Right.
Because I had to continue to pay all my bills on time to my creditors. Because one of the things in business is if you don't pay people on time, if you give people the impression that you're in financial trouble, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to be in trouble because if the perception becomes the reality. And think about it this way. If you don't pay people on time, what do? They put you on COD. Okay, now you got to come up with more money up front. It's worse. So I was shoveling money, and thank goodness I had the money to throw in at that point in time. But I think at one point in time, Emagine Nova owed me $900,000.
Jeez.
Yeah.
God,
It's not chump change.
not Trump change at all.
No, but one of the things I'm most proud of is that, I've had a lot of investors, provide capital to our businesses over the years. I have never once perpetrated what I call a capital call. I've never gone to my investors and said, this hasn't worked out very well. Why don't you throw in more money? I've never done that to them. And I think I've earned a lot of respect from my investors for doing so, because whenever we've had challenges, I found a way basically to make my problem, not their problem. And I think it's earned me a lot of credit with those folks. And by the way, it's the right way to treat people.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've never had a problem gaining investors in any endeavors that you've been in then.
Well, it hasn't always been easy. When we were doing Emagine Canton originally, we needed $5 million of equity. And we had about 3.75 in holding. And that's when I met another partner of mine. His name is John Goldstein. John and his family came up with $1,250,000, which got us off the ground in Canton. And that's been a very successful theater for us.
Where do you meet these guys? So maybe I can meet one of them.
In this case, John actually reached out to me through the internet. I'm not kidding you. He
crazy.
kind of admired what we were doing. He was living in Chicago at the time. He wanted to be in the business. And so he helped raise that kind of money with his family and friends. And they basically filled in the void that we had in our capital.
So he just called. He caught wind that you guys needed $1,250,000, and he just reached out.
Well, he called me, and then I brought it up.
Pitched it. Yeah.
You want to be my friend?
Best friends.
That's right.
How about sorry.
No, go ahead.
How about Emagine Royal Oak? Because I feel like that's probably one of your more successful. I mean, obviously they're all successful, but like that's probably because I went there on like a Friday night and every single movie was sold out. Like I couldn't even get anything, and it was 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Yeah,
He's not going to give you free tickets.
What
man.
is
like
I feel like Canton would be his best, but I'm not sure.
That's because we're Canton people.
Maybe because I'm there all the time, so I feel like Canton.
that's the one that we're mostly going to. But I feel like anytime I go to Royal Oak, it's just packed.
It's music to my ears. I'll tell you very candidly, Royal Oak has been our most difficult project.
Wow.
Yeah, and here's why. We ventured outside of our core competency in Royal Oak with the bowling and the event center and the restaurant, and candidly, we just didn't succeed in that business. And so if you go to Emagine Royal Oak today, you'll see that the 12 lanes of bowling on the first floor are gone. We put in a movie theater auditorium there, a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And we still got bowling upstairs because it's a great place to have a small party. But we've essentially learned that we have to, what I call, stick to our knittings, which is do what we know how to do and don't venture outside of that, because I failed in 2 restaurant ventures at this point in time, and I'm not looking for my third strike.
How many locations are you guys at now?
I have 11 that I'm responsible for.
Under the Emagine name?
There are actually 20 under the Emagine brand name. John, a gentleman I mentioned previously, John has 8 in Minnesota that are branded as Emagine Theaters. And what we did is we found a way to spread our corporate overhead over a larger base. And so, and there's some value in terms of collective purchasing and cutting deals with organizations like Coca-Cola and so forth. So so John has 8 in Minnesota. He's working on a 9th. We have 9 in Michigan that I'm responsible for. Plus, we have one down in Frankfort, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, and one in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
So you guys are spread across 4 different states now.
We are.
That's great. Hold on, I got something. This is almost completely off topic, but it's still relevant. I heard that back in 2015, you were actually in a fantasy league, but it was like a fantasy movie league. Is this true?
We do those things, but I don't think I really actively participated because I'm terrible at that.
From my understanding, you got second.
I did?
I don't know.
Maybe
That's what I read.
Maybe somebody...
Somebody likes you?
Yeah, somebody likes me.
I was wondering how that would work. You just pick movies that that you were into, or
I think you pick your stars, and you pick. It's a guessing contest about what film's going to do, like opening weekend, how much it's going to gross.
okay?
And so I think you get points if you're close. You know, if it
Gotcha.
opens to 78 million, you guess 78 million. You ding, 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 ding,
I
ding.
got
Right?
you. Still pretty interesting to do. That's
Yeah.
funny.
So you touched on this briefly already with the Royal Oak location, but is there ever a scenario where, like you said, that you feel like you're doing too much? Because you're always trying to stave off competition, correct?
Absolutely.
And maybe sometimes we're overthinking in a sense of what the consumer really wants.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think you need to understand about entrepreneurism is, you guys probably are entrepreneurs yourselves, is that not everything you do is going to work. And, you know, the key is to try not to die when you make a mistake, right?
Right.
And so the good news is that I've thankfully had the financial wherewithal when I've made some pretty substantial mistakes to be able to, you know, find a shovel and bury myself. But restaurants haven't worked. The bowling worked in the winter, but nobody goes bowling in the summer in Michigan. So the place was fallow for 8 months of the year. You know, it worked great in the winter. We made money in December and November.
And
And then that's about it. And then you had all the personnel, all the costs associated with carrying the restaurant the rest of the year.
So how, in your opinion, would you guys stave off the competition? Whether it's competing movie theaters, whether it's the Netflix of the world, the Hulus, whatever it may be.
I think it goes back to trying to offer our guests a good experience. It's the reclining chairs, it's the in-seat service, it's the online ticketing. Hopefully it's a combination of all those things that makes it an experience that you would deem to be a worthy value. Because again, you know, we can all put our feet up at home and watch a movie, right? And we've got access to lots of different filmed entertainment right in our homes
Right.
these days. So if I don't make it so that you guys see value in it, you'll vote with your wallets and stay home. That's why, you know, when people laud me again, oh, you brought these reclining chairs, it's wonderful. Hey, I got to survive, right? Because look at how competitive this world has become. And the world gets more competitive every single day.
Correct.
FYI, those chairs, amazing.
Yeah.
Glad you like them.
Yeah.
Do you know, you probably don't know this, but we're in our second generation of chairs now. We've got some, honestly, they didn't last very long. And so in Canton, for example, we just replaced the whole fleet of chairs.
Speaking of the chairs, was that a difficult decision for you? Because I would assume you have less tickets, you know, at the you know what I mean?
It's taken my industry some time to figure it out. And we weren't the first to offer reclining chairs in the Metropolitan Detroit market. It was actually done by AMC at Star John R. And what happened was that we saw how their box office results turned out once they installed the reclining chairs. They literally tripled their attendance. They had a 16-screen cinema that was doing really mediocre business. They put in the reclining chairs. They tripled their business. And so while we weren't the first in this case, I saw what they were doing, and I said, by golly, if folks want to sit in reclining chairs, we better give them reclining chairs. And it is counterintuitive from this perspective. You lose 2/3 of your available seating when you
Right.
when you put in recliners, because you've got 7 feet of row spacing and about 2 feet now per seat. It's actually like 28 inches on center. And so when you lose 2/3 of your seat count, you're going, well, how does this work? And it actually works from the perspective that your occupancy percentage goes up more than a proportion of the reduction in your seat count. And so Canton, for example, is a great example. We were subject to competition in a theater in Westland. We were down to about 650,000 guests a year. And we installed those recliners, and we didn't raise the price. Kept the same pricing strategy as we had all along, because we wanted it to be an affordable form of out-of-home entertainment. And last year we served 1 million guests there.
Wow.
Wow.
So you did 150% compared to the 650.
Yes.
That's-
And that's why, for example, we're putting this new giant screen on the Emagine Canton now, because our competitor to the west, the Canton 7, is now going out of business, and they were serving about 100 to 140,000 guests a year. I want those guests to come to Imagine. I don't want to go anywhere else.
I recommend
Quality over quantity then.
I also
Yes.
I also feel like once you're more comfortable, like with the seating and whatnot, speaking off of that, you buy more concessions. Because, I mean, obviously, we know those are a pretty penny, you know?
Well, I can
But
tell you this. You
That's where
can't-
the real juice is squeezed.
Absolutely. Without the juice from concession sales, you don't have a viable business. Because the studios receive, on average, about 60% of the box office. And so if you take that 40% on an average ticket price of $8, so you have $3.20 left over, that doesn't begin to cover property taxes, utilities, managerial personnel. You know, all, your fixed costs alone will more than eat that up. So, but for the privilege of selling food and beverage items in our venues, we would not have a viable business.
So what is it with the popcorn? Because I know you've been quoted that you won't watch a movie without popcorn.
Well, I am a big popcorn fan. I'll make it at home too, but you know, and this is another concept that, you know, we used to just have movie theater popcorn, right? Well, now you can make popcorn at home. I can, but guess what we're doing? You could have olive oil popcorn.
The toppings, brilliant. The white cheddar,
Yeah,
incredible.
you could have olive oil popcorn. You could have regular popcorn. You could have cheese corn. You could have caramel corn. You can mix them together, and you could have real butter in your popcorn too.
You can also put jalapenos on your popcorn, which I
didn't-
do.
That's
what I
awesome.
do.
I like that. I love that. And so we're continually trying to do something for our guests that they can't do at home. So if I give you a 94-foot screen, can't do that at home.
Right.
And so for a kid who grew up on a 45-foot lot, a 94-foot screen seems like a big one.
Hold on, I got a bone to pick. Imagine Canton. You used to have those dinky donuts.
Dinky Donuts.
Oh, yeah.
Where
Where
have
are
they
those
been, Paul?
dinkies at?
Dinky Donuts.
Well, that was one of my mistakes, Dinky Donuts. I invested in that business, and it actually had 4 retail locations. I lost a lot of money on that.
Really?
Oh, a ton
Wow.
of money, yeah.
Those things were amazing.
Now I'm under a non-compete for another year or so. I can't sell donuts, but I'll tell you what we've got, and I really would like you to try them.
Funnel fries.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, I did.
Funnel fries. I'm telling you, I think the funnel fries are actually better than the donuts.
Phenomenal.
I haven't had them.
Phenomenal.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
good. Very good.
Yeah, they give you some dipping sauce to go with them.
Oh,
or
yeah.
They put some
Oh, yeah.
powdered sugar on them.
My mouth is watering.
I got to get out there if I can ever find a babysitter.
Yeah, funnel fries are really
Sorry,
addictive.
Are you working with outside retailers or people for those things like that? Are they like pitching the idea to you, and then you're like, okay, I'd like to put this in my theater? Or
I think that, food purveyor Cisco brought the funnel fries to our attention. And it's a good product. They're just like French fries, only they go in a fryer and they come out and it's just like a elephant ear you'd get at the fair or something
Sugary
like that.
goodness.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, there's a lot of businesses. For example, we just had the Ramadan Food Festival,
Uh-huh.
and there's a lot of those small businesses that just come out at that time during Ramadan.
Yes.
And I mean, they would be amazing, and like the donuts,
in the movie space? Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
the beaver tails. Did you guys have
Yeah,
those?
yeah, there was a lot of
What's a
things.
beaver tail?
Beaver tail is basically it's like a funnel cake, but
Okay.
it's shaped as a rectangle
Oh.
with like
Toppings and stuff.
Nutella and Reese's Pieces if you want.
It's Canadian. It
I
comes.
was-
Yeah.
I say anything you put Nutella on it, it's going to be awesome, right?
You probably have to build a completely different space for it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of all
although
the
we've
toppings.
got fryers in all of our buildings now, and so that's why funnel fries work.
I know you said the restaurants failed, but would you ever consider doing something with food where they can maybe order a pizza, for example, and then it's brought to the chair, or
Actually, we do that.
at
Royal
all
Oak, right?
locations?
We do it
or-
at all our locations right
I know
now.
it's at Royal Oak.
So I've been coming out to grab the pizza for missing the previews for no reason.
No reason. They should be delivering them to you.
I did not know that.
How do you
Now,
make that happen?
Let me check with our managers and see if they figured that out yet.
Oh, we
But
just put somebody on
I did
blast.
not know that. I did not know that.
That's our best practice is to say to folks, let's see your ticket. We know where you're sitting. We'll bring it right to your seat.
So you ordered at the counter,
Yep.
and then you asked them to deliver it to you when it's ready.
Yep. They should be offering that.
That's actually perfect, though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
genius.
had some people that were next to me. I went like a week ago, and they were actually taking orders and stuff. It was Emagine Macomb.
Oh yeah. Yep. They're good at Macomb. They know how to do that.
Yeah, so
I think it's similar to the ongoing discussion in regards to sporting events. The whole thing, like, why would I pay for the price of a ticket when I can enjoy it in the comfort of my home? So I know there's that ongoing debate with you guys, but for me personally, it's never been one for me because people sometimes just want to get out. Like, I mean, people have families, they have jobs. They don't want to just sit home sometimes. They want to go have a nice, experience outside of the house.
There's a school of thought that says that we all have kitchens in our homes, yet we go out to restaurants.
Exactly,
Right?
yeah.
And so I believe that we do want to be naturally social animals. We want to get out. But I think that, again, if you were sitting on an uncomfortable chair, the floors were sticky, you had to race in the auditorium to get a decent seat. I mean, I think you'd think twice about
Yeah,
whether or not
yeah.
that's really a value. And so I think where we've got a substantial competitive advantage over sporting events, for example, is we're at a much lower price point. I was listening on the radio today about Mary Kramer from Crane's Detroit Business was talking about the average revenue per capita at a Tiger game is $73. We're nowhere near that. Our average, including ticket and food and beverage, would turn out to be more like $16.
Really?
Yes.
'Cause
And so-
Tigers tickets are expensive.
Yeah. So I'd like to believe that we're a value, and in fact, it's a fascinating concept that there was a company called iPick, and their predecessor was Gold Class Cinema. They would charge $35 for movie tickets, and and it was a wonderful experience. People loved it, and they give you blankets. I mean, it's really over the top, but the result is that folks would only go for special occasions. The culture in the United States is that we go more frequently. If you compare the frequency of movie going in the U.S., say, to Europe, in Europe it's about half or less the frequency. And so Americans are just more sort of accustomed to going to the show more frequently. I don't know if it's ingrained in our culture, but the point is that I need to make the price point so it's attractive, and that's why we want to hold down the ticket price so that we fill up the seats. Honestly, when I'm in a volume business, I've got to fill seats. That's really my responsibility. And if folks come, then we'll have the privilege of offering food and beverage once they're there.
Sorry, go ahead.
There is a theater in Birmingham, right, that offers like dinner and a movie,
That's the
Palladium or
Yeah.
something.
That's ours.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Imagine
they-
Palladium.
They do that in Birmingham, and it's great to go to, but I've only gone on special occasions, which was what you were saying. So
Yeah. Now the folks who offered dinner and a movie, that was their predecessor. They went out of business.
Oh,
Again,
okay.
again, that restaurant business will do that to you. But we're offering more expanded food offerings, but not gourmet food. Honestly, I've got the adage these days: if a high school kid can't make it, we can't sell it.
Well, what's the age demographic you guys are targeting, or is there not one?
Well, I think folks of all ages like movies, but it's clear that younger people are more frequent moviegoers. Then when you've got kids, you're less likely to go because you've got to find a babysitter and so forth. And so I think depending on where you're at in your life, you go more frequently or less frequently. And again, it's a function of your other responsibilities, your family life, your ability to get out and so forth.
Sorry, I gotta ask this. Have you guys ever considered like a daycare?
We have. It's really hard, and here's why. You don't know how to forecast demand, so you've got a daycare provider there, and you don't know if one kid will show up or 7 kids will show up.
Gotta be staffed.
And then, of course, we've got a system of jurisprudence in this country where the lawyers would all have a field day if little Johnny
Yeah.
Very
yes.
true.
gets a cold or something. So there's some liability exposure that comes
Absolutely.
along with it as well.
So you mentioned sporting events. Have you ever thought of like doing gaming events where it's like, because gaming is huge now.
In fact, we've done gaming. We've done gaming in Royal Oak. Microsoft actually sponsored an event we had on a Sunday, and it was all these different colleges, and the young people were competing with each other. They were looking at the audience, and the audience was looking at the screen, but it was like on a delay, so that you wouldn't be able to influence the game itself. But we're really high on esports. We want to pursue that.
It's a great idea.
vigorously.
Yeah.
Yes.
That or I just had it in my head. Go ahead.
I gotta ask you this question, otherwise I might get in trouble when I go home. But parties, parties are only weekends available. Like if someone wants to rent out for a birthday party or something, can that only be done on a weekday? Or because my sister-in-law actually wanted me to ask you because she said she tried to during the week, but it wasn't available. Is that something you guys don't offer, or is it?
When we're turning down revenue, I want to know exactly who that is.
I think we got somebody else in trouble.
I need your sister-in-law to tell me exactly who was it that said we're not taking your money
so
today.
so you can do birthday parties during the week then.
Absolutely. We can do birthday parties anytime, night or day, any day of the week.
So how does that work? Whether it's a birthday party or let's say we want to go and watch the game.
Yeah.
Do we got to rent out the entire theater?
Well, I'll tell you what we got these days, and these are really ideal for the kind of parties you're talking about. We have what are called screening rooms. And in fact, what we're building in Canton is both the giant screen, but we're also building a screening room. A screening room has 24 seats
Okay.
and a screen that's good size in relationship to the auditorium. We have screening rooms now in Birmingham, Royal Oak, Frankfurt, as well as Heartland Township, and we're going to put one in Canton. These are the perfect things for kids' birthday parties. Here's why. Because we can serve your food, your birthday cake, all right there, and you don't have to go like a party room and then move from the party
Perfect,
room
yep.
to go
Yeah.
watch the movie. So you're all contained in one spot. So our screening rooms have proven to be extremely popular because you could bring your Hulu account. Let's say, what was the TV series that just ended? Game of Thrones.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna
yes.
mention that. I'll
We-
say something after though. Go ahead.
We had all kinds of folks who brought their HBO account with them and rented a screening room and just had a viewing
Wow,
party.
we should have done that.
And so I'd like to tell you that I think that those screening rooms are really ideal because if you've got anything over 10 or 15 people, it's a good value. It's essentially the cost of the movie.
So if
ticket.
we ever wanted to watch, for example, the Super Bowl or something, would you guys offer something like that?
Absolutely, we actually do typically show that.
It wouldn't be a screening room. It would be, or would it be a screening room?
Well, it depends on how many folks you're bringing. I mean,
What about our fantasy draft?
Yes, that would be a
that
good
is a
idea
good
as
idea.
well.
So, do you guys for the screening room? Do you typically charge per person, or there's a flat fee for the room itself, and then whoever you bring up to the 24 is up to you?
It's typically the price of the movie ticket times 24.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's nothing.
That's not bad at all.
no, and then we hope you'll buy some food and beverage, but you don't have to.
Okay, we would
That would be a given. Yeah.
we would like to rent the room after this show.
But I'll book it right
Get you
now.
a set date.
Because whoever my colleague was turning down revenue, I'm gonna accept it.
We're doing our fantasy draft at the theater.
We should do that.
100%.
We really should.
Are you gonna give me my ring there?
Promise you, I'll wear a suit and everything. We're
will?
doing it at the
You're
theater.
gonna be on a
Yeah,
podium.
because any type of anything could be displayed on a television screen can now be displayed on one of our screens.
Let me ask you
in
this:
high def.
Could you bring us into the fantasy draft as like the pretend commissioner?
I could, yes. In fact, I'm going to anoint you today. You are the commissioner.
I've been fired.
So So what I wanted to say was, have you ever did like a Game of Thrones finale? Because I know we're huge on Game of Thrones, and if it was showing at the theater, I think all of us would have went.
Yeah, we had folks that brought their accounts with them, and we hooked it up to the digital projector, and they had the whole party there.
I'm saying like for like regular viewing for like your whole theater. Like is that something
Like
that
you could almost do it as like as a
Actu-
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
Actually, we did, but here's one of the challenges. We have to be careful what's called unauthorized exhibition.
True.
So we can't necessarily take product that we're not paying royalties for
Okay.
and show it.
Makes sense.
And so the way we like to do it is to have our guests bring their own content. Then we're charging, they can bring their own content, show it on the screen, but we're just charging them basically room rental.
Makes
So
sense.
if we want to watch a sporting event, I would have to bring like my Comcast or Xfinity login to watch it on the big screen. That way you guys don't have to worry about the content.
The difference with a sporting event is that as long as you're not charging for it, most of the sports leagues are going to turn the other cheek. They're not going to look at it. Now, years ago when the Super Bowl was in Detroit, I was planning on showing the game in Novi, and I got a letter from the lawyer at the NFL, and said, I don't think that's a good idea. And guess what? It wasn't a good idea.
Once you get that letter, it's a wrap.
Yeah, the NFL's got a lot of money to pursue little pipsqueaks like me, and so I thought,
man.
you're right. We're not going to show that. We're not going to show that
Sorry,
game
guys.
after all.
Full refunds.
Yeah.
I don't know if I read this correctly or if this was a rumor, but are you guys have a new project going on in Detroit?
We are absolutely working toward building a big theater in Detroit.
With a specific well-known rapper,
Yeah, Big Sean.
Big Sean.
Girl, how big is it?
And it's interesting. And how did that partnership come about?
Sean's a big Detroit guy. He grew up in Detroit, went to Cass Tech, has a lot of affinity for this marketplace. And we'd gotten wind that he was interested in doing a movie theater in Detroit, and we did as well. And somehow, I think my CEO, Anthony, arranged for a meeting. And we talked to Sean, his business manager, his mom, and Myra, who's lovely. And we decided we would do it together.
That's amazing.
And so it'll be, I'm really looking forward to it. We've been struggling to find the right location for it, but I believe we're now really achieving some traction in terms of a site selection process. So I'm hoping that we will be able to announce a location before the end of this year.
When do you anticipate that project being completed?
You know, if we announce it this year, we're going to go through a lot of entitlements and engineering and architecture and so forth. I would think that realistically, we're probably looking at early 2021.
Okay.
With locations that you're looking at, are you thinking in the heart of downtown or like midtown?
The heart of downtown is challenging because of parking. You
Oh,
know,
that's right.
we find that people don't like even paying for parking in Royal Oak, but even if it's $2 or $2.50.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, if you're a loyalty member, we validate your parking in Royal Oak, so we try to address that concern. But you know, if you come down when there's something going on at the Fox or at the Joe Louis, or not Joe Louis, but Little Caesars, parking's $45.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Nobody's going to pay $45 to go to a movie. And so we think that the central business district is a tough place to put it. You know, unless Dan Gilbert wants to give us greatly subsidized pricing.
I'll talk to Dan for you.
Yeah.
I'll talk.
Works for Quicken, so.
Is that right? Well, yeah. Ask Dan if he could greatly subsidize our parking.
I'll
We'll
see
make
what
it
he
work.
says. I got
Okay.
a
So
golf meeting with him next
What we
week.
can do is we can have him reach out to Dan, and since you know Sean on a first name basis, you can maybe introduce us. We'll bring him on the podcast. You know, what do you?
He's a really fine young man. I like him a lot.
We'd love to have him on. He was at the Quicken conference.
Yes.
All team member con. He came on, put on a concert for us. It was pretty nice.
Yeah, I know
good
he's
dude.
done work with Dan before, and I'm glad to hear you guys enjoyed it. He's a terrific guy.
Great rapper.
So we have, you want to go with the listener questions?
We had some people reach out to us and wanted us to ask you these questions. So we're gonna shoot them at you, and you give us whatever type of answer you want.
Is no comment a good answer?
Nah, I don't think any of them are these types
Yeah,
of
they're
questions.
not. They're not.
Okay.
So we had one listener say, "Why are we forced to watch commercials before every movie?"
Commercials, they mean like the previews?
Correct.
Before the previews. Is there
Oh.
commercials before the previews?
There are. Yeah, so it's because I get paid 26 cents per guest.
It's a good enough answer.
That's a great answer.
However, here's what I would tell you. With the advent of reserved seating, you never have to be subject to a commercial.
Right. That's why I don't have
True.
an issue with that.
And the other thing I would tell you is that I remember going to AMC, and they would tell you the movie's going to start at 8. Well, at 8, they would start showing you commercials. Well, what we do is if we tell you the movie's going to start at 8, we start showing previews at 8, then we show the film. Now, the only exception is that somehow, some way, I miscalculated with Coca-Cola, and they get some one ad in there just before the film. It grinds me, candidly. I'm going to change that in the next contract. So you are subjected to one Coca-Cola commercial.
They got you hooked because
Yeah.
I'm a Pepsi guy, so it's.
Uh-oh.
I sometimes walk out of the theater after that one.
I don't blame you.
No, I'm just messing.
but I think the answer is go take a break. Your seat will be there. Come and buy another pizza.
Yeah.
There you go. Another sale.
So typically the movie time is the start of the previews.
Yes,
for
exactly.
future reference.
Right. And the good thing about me telling you that secret is you could be 10 minutes late and
Right.
not miss the film.
So
Yeah.
so typically, if the movie shows at 8 o'clock,
Yep.
it's not starting until about 8:15. Is that fair to say?
That's
It's
very-
always 15 minutes.
Yeah, it depends on the number of trailers and the length of the trailers, but I would
Tend
say
to be safe.
yeah, I would say 10 to 15 minutes. You're in good shape.
Okay. Next question here: would you ever consider selling halal hot dogs?
I would. Why not? Yeah, absolutely.
I would,
Especially in Canton.
I would assume it would be location dependent
Yeah,
because there
like
is
Canton.
a large community in Canton that would be willing to purchase those.
So would you say was kosher? Would that be equivalent, or
No.
or
No.
actually halal is different?
Halal is
Okay.
different.
They're essentially the way they're cleaned is and prepared is almost
Uh-huh.
the same, but
Yep.
the wording and stuff before they're killed, the way they're blessed,
Yeah.
is a little different.
Got it.
So that's probably the biggest difference between the two, and that's what would make one.
Why don't you guys turn me on to a supplier that provides those
Absolutely.
products,
We will
and-
definitely do
and
that.
We will we'll give it a shot. Zane over here.
Yeah.
Zane's got you covered.
Got me
Yeah.
covered. All right.
Yeah.
All right, next question. I think you already answered it, but I'm going to ask it just so you can answer it again. Why are things so expensive at the concession stands?
No
Because,
comment.
because
no
I'm a
comment.
whore? I don't know.
No, you answered it earlier.
No, you answered it. It's
No, the truth is that but for the privilege of offering our guests food and beverage items, we could not make the economics of the business work. I'll give you a great example. The chairs are $600 a piece.
wow.
$600 a chair. We've invested over $1 million in chairs this year, just reseating Macomb and Canton, and so it's they're probably more costs than guests normally perceive to be the case, right? Like property taxes. Would you think that property taxes would be?
Let me give it a shot. Imagine Canton, 110,000.
You're way short.
Short?
Oh my God! Yeah, Imagine Canton's more like 275.
Wow.
Might have to use the bathroom.
Yeah, so over $20,000 a month, just in property taxes. And then you got probably another 15 grand a month in
The price- the price-
utilities.
The moral of the story:
price-
don't complain about the
Price
concession.
to do
Just buy 'em.
business.
It's and so again, we obviously don't compel people to buy food and beverage items. We get that, but here's what I would tell you: but for that privilege of offering our guests food and beverage, that business goes away overnight.
Makes sense.
It just
Makes sense.
not because you're here. I think it's competitive pricing compared to any of the other competitors.
Oh, every theater's
Yeah,
the same
it's the
because
same.
they all have to.
Actually, we're lower than AMC and United Artists for sure.
But clearly, it's a business model that needs to be put in place.
Yeah.
If there was another way to do it, I'm all ears. But when the studios receive 60% of the box office, you've got to find a way to make money on something, right?
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
And the liquor was actually genius too, because that's mostly profit when it comes to that, right?
Actually, soda has a better profit margin, but it does have a good margin, probably on average about 75%. So it's an important component. And very few of our guests actually buy an alcoholic beverage. I would say it's like 1 out of 8.
I was gonna say, have you got any pushback on that, or?
Years ago, we got some pushback, and there are, of course, some people who think it's inappropriate. But I'm in what I call a marginal revenue business. But for that marginal revenue, you can't make it. And think of it this way too. When we were serving 650,000 guests a year in the same building with the same property taxes, it wasn't a very exciting business. Now, when you get to 1 million guests a year, it gets to be a pretty good business.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: we brought up the liquor. You got to have a couple of juicy stories of some people maybe getting a little too, liquor happy and.
Well, at one time we thought about, we've got these low light surveillance cameras. We thought about having the Imagine sex tape.
No.
Obviously, it didn't go far.
Maybe we could just watch that together.
Yeah, but we had clips of people that were maybe a little frisky, and I remember one.
That's funny, man.
I remember one time, my general manager is looking at the monitors, and these two folks are going at it, and he went in there and said, "Excuse me, you can't do this here."
Were they sitting up top?
Yeah, they were up top, and later the lady comes out and says to my manager Chris, "Well, we're married. It's okay."
What?
Oh man.
No, it's not okay. Get a room.
Oh, what do you think the percentages of people we know?
I have no idea.
It's got to be at least like 1.5%.
No idea.
It's got to be, especially at Imagine Canton. That's it for those, but I do have one other question.
Shoot.
You have 20 total locations between the entire company. Which location are you most proud of?
They're like children. They really are.
There is always a favorite, though.
There is.
No, they're like children. And, my friend Jim, who was our original angel investor, and his friend Dale, Jim's favorite theater is Birch Run, because that one's done really well for him and so forth. But in my case, I love them all, like my children. I don't differentiate with them between them anyway. I can tell you that the newer models, like the brand new one we've just built in Heartland Township or the one in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, they are off the charts beautiful. I mean, if you go out to Heartland Township, you'll be wowed at both the physical plant outside, the building facade, and what's inside. We've got fireplace and a fancy bar. I mean, and I've heard people say, It's the equivalent of going into like a 5-star hotel lobby.
Wow.
Oh wow.
How far is Heartland from here?
I was just about to ask.
From Canton, it's not that far. You go out to 23 and go north to M59. You're there.
Okay.
Maybe we do that one day.
I had a question
Road
for
trip.
you.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm curious if you're familiar with any of these quotes. I have 2 quotes here. The first one being, "Fear is a great motivator." Are you familiar with this quote?
I believe that's my quote.
Okay. And the next one being, knowing what you don't want can be as important as knowing what you do want.
That came into play in my life too, because while I was going to college, I worked for a major auto manufacturer doing accounting work. And I recognized that I didn't want to work for a major auto manufacturer in accounting.
Okay.
And so so when you learn what you don't want to do, it helps you guide you to what you do want to do.
Right. You've obviously come a long way over the course of how many years has it been since you started?
Well, it's been, if you count going back to the Clarkson Cinema days, this month is 30 years.
30 years. So if there's a piece of advice you could give young entrepreneurs who sometimes get caught in the mindset of thinking they can make this type of success happen overnight, it's clearly not an overnight type of thing, what advice would you give them?
No, in fact, before I respond, I can tell you that I've got a friend by the name of Andy Appleby who created the United Shore Baseball League out in Utica. And Andy has the adage that it's the best 10-year overnight success he's ever achieved with that, because he spent years toiling trying to find location, put it all together. And so I think that patience is really required. In my case, I'll be candid with you, I didn't make any money until I was about 40 years old. And so, now there are young people that are much smarter than me that make a lot of money well before that, right? But, we all progressed at our own pace. And one of the good things I learned as an accountant doing tax returns and so forth is this: no matter how much money you make, somebody makes more. So don't judge your happiness, don't judge your value based on what somebody else makes. And life ain't fair, because you may look at somebody across the way in the office and say, "Why is he making that and I'm making this?" There's no upside to that type of mindset.
Live your own life.
Well said, well said.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to jump into the 411 here?
Ready for
we're
the
gonna, We're
411?
going to integrate you on some sports.
I just have a few.
Get your opinions
Let's
on
go
these.
for
Are
it.
you a tennis guy?
No.
Okay.
Scratch
So
that.
what? Let's do it anyways. Let's
First
just-
one is Rafael Nadal wins his 12th French Open.
Is that a record?
It's almost.
The king of clay.
Yeah.
He is. He doesn't lose on clay, by the way.
Never.
No.
Now, do
Isn't
you-
he like 57-0 or something?
He's not the best ever, in my opinion. I would give it to Federer.
I still think Federer over him, but on clay, I don't think it's close.
He's unbeatable pretty much.
Have you ever played tennis, Paul?
Once or twice.
Once or twice. So there's like
Almost as bad as my golf game.
there's like 6 different surfaces. There's like clay, there's grass, there's I don't even know. There's a bunch of things. So none of us are tennis players here.
Concrete where I play.
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Concrete. Yeah.
All right. Are you a baseball guy?
A little bit.
Big Papi Ortiz got shot in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, in his home country. That's awful.
Sitting on a
terrible.
chair.
Sitting on a chair?
Just sitting on a chair. Someone came up and shot him in the back.
But I understand that there was some justice meted out.
I saw
There
that.
was. You guys seen the video?
I haven't seen the video, but
Ooh.
apparently the folks that were around him took issue with
Oh
it.
yeah. We'll show you the video right after we get off. He's bloodied. He's bloodied in
Oh,
that
yeah.
video.
Well, and rightly so. It's
Yeah.
I mean,
Boy,
isn't Poppy like king
He's-
over
he's-
there?
He's an icon over there.
Yeah, he's
yeah,
like
and
he's royalty.
thank goodness he's not, more seriously injured. Apparently the bullet went right through him, went through his belly, and he's okay. But inch or two either way. 'Cause it
terrible.
Could have killed the poor guy.
Absolutely.
I left the best for last because I know you're a Golden State fan. Klay Thompson is locked in to star in Space Jam 2 with LeBron.
That's awesome.
How did that happen?
I
Now,
have
do
no
you,
clue.
do you think that's a marketing scheme from LeBron to get him to the Lakers?
It's worth a shot.
Because guess who else is in that movie?
Who else?
Anthony Davis.
Is he really?
Is
Yeah.
he really?
Oh.
He is. So LeBron might be assembling a little dream team.
Is that your team or is
Space Jam 2? I mean, are you serious? They're going to bring back a Space Jam?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah. They already have it.
You should play that.
Well, we will. I didn't know it was in the lineup.
I don't-
Is
go
Golden State your team or like?
No, I just admire the fact that they've had such a good run,
Yeah.
and And I've got a cousin who lives out in California. It's her team, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to root for this team because it's Barbie's team.
Yeah.
They play tonight.
Yeah.
Play tonight, 9 o'clock.
Kevin Durant is playing.
You have to wager all of your excess, every Imagine theater, who wins tonight and who wins the series.
Oh,
Paul.
believe me.
Hypothetically speaking, obviously.
Okay, hypothetically, good. I think Toronto's up a lot, but if their stars are healthy enough to play, you cannot count out the Golden State Warriors.
Clay and Kevin are playing.
So you
Yeah.
got them coming back down 3-1.
I think they're going to come back.
Wow.
We'll
man-
hold
he's
your
bold.
feet to the fire. After.
He's bold. That's why he's successful.
Anything else, or is that pretty much it?
Oh, that's it. I only had a few.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
I know you
Good
have
time.
your
Thank you.
social medias. You're on the Twitter. You're on Instagram. If you want to give us your handles.
Actually, I'm not on Instagram.
You're not on Instagram.
So I tagged a
Yeah.
fake Paul Glantz official.
Yeah.
That wasn't you.
There is a Paul Glantz on Instagram.
Oh, the real Paul Glantz? Now that's an awesome thing. They've got a little miniature cutout of Paul Glantz, and we believe it's a Southwest Airlines pilot who takes little Paul Glantz everywhere in the cockpit in the plane, buries him in sand. It's like, so that's the real Paul Glantz.
Wow, that's how you know you made it.
Yeah,
Well, I know you're on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
at Paul Glantz.
At Paul Glantz.
Easy enough.
All Imagine movie theaters. Check them out, guys. Don't complain about the concessions. It's how this man makes a living. Paul, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for being here, Paul.
Thanks, Alec.
Take us out.
Awesome.
We're out!